Welcome to the audio version of our recent Ride and Talk live video podcast, where we took a deep dive into the soul of the new R18 with head of BMW Motorrad design Edgar Heinrich, head of product management Christian Pingitzer, and Kurt Böck, project manager for that awesome 1800cc motor. We also chatted with Roland Sands, designer of the R18 Dragster, and Bernhard Naumann, builder of the Blechmann R18. Enjoy! Greetings R18 fans, Andy Dukes here with some very special guests joining us from right across the world of BMW Motorrad. What are we doing today? We're going to take a much deeper dive into the design process and engineering excellence that has gone into this latest model, with those directly responsible for making it happen, before exploring a few of the many customization options for the R18, which, as you'll know by now, is due for imminent arrival in dealers. Can't wait for that one. Then, we're going to take a closer look at the R18 Dragster project with the guy who designed and built it, the one and only Roland Sands. We're putting Roland on near the end, as it's super early in California right now, and I have it on good authority that he's not a morning person. And as an extra special treat, did you see the Blechmann R18 that broke cover last week? It's yet another seriously impressive custom using the R18 as a base, and we've managed to persuade its builder, Bernhard Naumann, to come on the podcast and talk us through the process, or at least what went on in his head while creating it. And last, but definitely not least, we're going to make time for our special guests to answer your questions. So please get posting now in the comments section, and we'll rattle through as many as we can. Firstly, let's bring in three guys, all of them instrumental in very different ways for the look, the performance, and the endless customization possibilities offered by the R18. Welcome Edgar, Christian, and Kurt. Well, let's start with you first, Christian. So, how are you doing today? You all right?
Absolutely fine. Yes, Andy.
Nice to see you again. Well, listen, after all the build-up, the early concepts, the gorilla bikes, and the Bavarian Soul Story episodes, the series R18, it's finally here, and everyone's really excited. Everything's been leading up to this point, and now, of course, it all makes perfect sense. BMW just had to be in this segment, didn't they?
Absolutely, Andy. It's a huge segment, and we talk about 30% of the 500cc plus market. And therefore, it had to be our target to offer something really emotional and authentic BMW. And believe me, after 5 really, really long years of research, development, endless discussions, and solutions back and forth, the preparation is finished, and here we are today.
Here we are today, indeed. 5 years. Wow, but that went quickly. So R18 is just one letter and 2 numbers, but it's a whole new world in motorcycling terms, Christian. Now, to someone who doesn't live in this world, how would you explain the rules of the segment? And of course, how BMW Motorrad interpreted them with this new bike?
Yes, Andy. The cruiser segment is a segment where you need a massive bike with a massive engine to have a relaxed and cool ride. So definitely in that segment, size matters, and that's what we're aiming at. Very important is the ride stance, the looks. The cruiser has to be long and low. It has to ride very, very relaxed and pleasing everyone. Very important for us was to have the Boxer in the center of this concept, and therefore we really worked with all our engineering ideas for quite a while to decide which engine type to use. But of course, there was no other choice than using our 1800 Boxer engine, a Boxer type engine, because the Boxer is the heart of BMW. As you might know, we have started with this engine type 100 years ago with our first bike in 1923. So it had to be on a Boxer engine. And also very typical is the shaft drive for BMW. So we have a lot of shaft drives in our offer. And this time we even managed to offer it without a housing. So you see a pure mechanical piece working underneath you while you're riding.
Now, of course, BMW Motorrad, they've got a pioneering reputation for innovation and treading their own path right across all market segments. So I guess they were never going to be satisfied with just a great-looking cruiser. It also has to offer market-leading innovation, right? So can you tell us about some of the USPs of the R18, within its class?
Yes, of course, we were thinking about that as well. And I wanted to point out, first of all, our LED headlight. So the bike is equipped with full LED headlight and LED indicators, so you have to be visible when it comes to rider safety. That is a standard in many bikes, but we also wanted to bring that into our cruiser. Also, of course, we wanted to have a real good rideable bike, and we offer a lot of torque with that engine, as you can imagine. And therefore, we offer, of course, a standard traction control system on our bike.
Yeah, totally, yeah. I'm also interested, Christian, in the technology options that you have to increase your ride experience even further on the R18. Things like reverse assist, hill start control, headlight pro. Can you tell us a little bit more about these, please?
Yes, the reverse assist, you cannot see that. You can actuate it with a nice little chrome lever on the left side of the bike. And of course, it helps you when you move the bike around and you need to go in a narrow parking space or in your parking garage and you want to back a little bit. It's a big bike, and so a little help is always welcome. Then, of course, we have our standard ABS system that is definitely a need for every bike. And that works well with the reverse assist here. And that ABS system is used to operate the hill start control system. So when you're standing and stopping on a gradient, then of course the hill start control prevents you from rolling backwards. So you have an auto stop, so to speak, and when you accelerate the bike again, it easily maneuvers back on little speed, so you have no problems there as well. Another option that you mentioned is the Headlight Pro, and Headlight Pro here on the bike can be equipped, and then you have the advantage that when you go around corners, that you have an adaptive cornering light, and you have a better vision, especially when you're riding at night, of course.
Wow, a lot of things in the segment, that's for sure. Many firsts. Now, BMW Motorrad is a brand that takes its heritage seriously, and this is a serious offering, of course. But what kind of riders do you think might want to see an R18 in their garage, Christian?
That's a good question, but we think, of course, that riders that ride a cruiser today would be interested to take a test ride. But on the other hand, we have a lot of other riders that are interested and showed interest already that, for example, are riding totally different types of bikes today, sports bikes or enduro bikes. Because everyone is really pleased when he sees the details that and the love and the work that we have put into this bike. And so I wouldn't exclude anyone to take a test ride and to look at the bike live, because due to the Corona situation, we of course cannot show the bikes a lot live other than at the dealers very soon. So then it's always digital, so it never comes as close as if you're with the real bike and take a test ride and look what it does to you, if it touches your heart or not. If it does, we have done a good job.
Yeah, you're right. Test rides are not far away, and we're doing the best as we can until then. But yeah, loads of food for thought there. Thanks for that, Christian. Certainly got me thinking, maybe if I cleared my wife's car out of the garage, I could definitely fit an R18 in there next to my other
I can
bikes.
imagine.
But, yeah,
I speak to your wife.
Before I get myself in any more trouble, let's move on to BMW Motorrad's head of design, because it's great to have you here on the live podcast. Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you. Hi, welcome, Andy.
Yeah, well, listen, Edgar, we know the R18's got some amazing modern technology wrapped and hidden also, of course, in a classic timeless look. But I want to ask you, what was the starting point for getting those proportions right? After all, it's not only about how the bike looks, but also how the riders themselves look on the bike, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely correct, Andy. I mean, Christian just pointed out about all the technology inside. There is, of course, all this technology inside, lots of quality and innovation stuff. But a bike about this is about the looks, the feel, and the sound, obviously. And, of course, how the rider looks on the bike. And that was most important for us from the very beginning of the project. So when we started the project, first of all, we did a deep dive into our history. And we haven't exploited this too much, actually, to be honest. I mean, we did a bit on the R90, you know this. That was very successful, and we learned a lot from this. And here, we did even more. Of course, everybody knows, who has a little bit idea about this, we have a very, very rich history. And there is a big vault of innovative and classy and beautiful solutions. So what we, at the end of the day, we kind of condensed some icons which we find on all the bikes from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. For example, if we point them out, we condensed to 5 what we call design icons, which first of all is the typical tank shape here. We know it from the R5 or some other bikes, very typical BMW-ish. Then, of course, we have this very typical triangular frame layout, which looks like a rigid frame here, combined also with the shaft drive, with the encaged rear axle housing, very, very iconic also. Then, of course, obviously, the black paint combined with a double pinstripe white lining. And last not least, obviously, the Boxer engine, the big flat twin engine. These were the basic proportions which were given. It sums up to this long and low stance and proportion. And of course, like you mentioned at the beginning, it's very important how the rider sits on the bike, and it makes him look cool.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, it's all about the stance, and you've got a lot of history to draw upon. Then it looks to me like you've just taken the best bits, But of course, when something just works design-wise, people actually don't often notice it. So, can you show us how the pared back, less is more purist design works on the R18? In terms of how it feels, its weight, its balance, its ergonomics. I mean, these are things that are actually easy to get wrong in design, aren't they?
It's probably very, very easy. Like my friend Ole used to say, it's very easy to get things complicated nowadays, but it's definitely difficult to keep it simple. And that was very, very important. That's probably one of the most difficult things in modern bike development, to keep a naked bike, an unfaired bike, keep it clean without any clutters, and a cool and nice, clean look. And that was most important. You can imagine this is a very modern bike. Christian has pointed out it has all the safety, the homologation, all this sound emission stuff, which needs to be fulfilled by homologation. But that requires lots of cables, black boxes, wires, sensors, and all this stuff. And of course, you got to have it. There's no way around it. But you have to get the bike clean. And that's probably what I think is the biggest achievement on the bike, that we really achieved this. The look, the feel, and the sound, and the quality look, and the material quality of the bike. I think that's a real big achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. It is certainly very, very clean, and there's a lot hidden, and it's not easy to do for sure. And that's why I'm interested in things that you don't see immediately, like how the swing arm appears to connect seamlessly to the main frame, thanks to that clever hidden rear strut. I mean, how did you transport that rigid frame concept of the R5 to the present day and somehow work in that cantilevered soft tail rear end that looks, to me at least, like it has no suspension, but I think it actually rewards the rider with about 90 mil of travel, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the team, the designers and the engineers, I think they did a very marvelous job. Because we could achieve to keep this triangular frame, this very classic look, driven from the old BMWs, but still you have all the technology and the comfort what you need to have. Of course, there is a swing arm, the suspension, the shock absorber. It's located in an area you don't really see, and all most of the technology which you don't want to see is hidden inside the bike. It's of course there. And that's what I meant. This is really real big achievement.
There's also the technology as well as the design that you might not notice straight away. Like the state-of-the-art LED light housings that I think they've been designed for implementation in the classic headlight shape. I mean, it's more than just function here, isn't it? Everything actually has to look right too.
Of course. I mean, just as I pointed out, it's the achievement is that all the technology is in there, but it looks very clean, very nice. And what I like probably also very much on the bike is the looks of the engine, because what I like so much on a engine like the Boxer is I like to talk about the semantics of the Boxer. And you almost can almost see how a Boxer engine works. This is what I mean about semantics. You can feel with your guts, you can see what the engine is doing inside. And this is something marvelous. I really love this. With the shaft drive, with the open shaft drive, which is turning while the bike is moving, you already see the momentum going from the engine to the rear axle and to the rear tire. This is very beautiful. I personally like to talk about this engine as a piece of art, a sculpture in metal, a sculpture cast in metal, if you want so. I mean, I'm really super excited by this engine. If you sit on the bike, I mean, you feel the power of the bike.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, all the fans, were really delighted to see that visible open drive shaft because, of course, it masterfully transposes that iconic style of past times right up to the present day. It's just my opinion. It's certainly one of my favourite design components of the R18, but I'm interested to know what are yours, Edgar?
I mean, first of all, it's the engine, like I mentioned already. Just like to see this analog style of the engine. It feels very analog, the bike. There's, of course, as mentioned, lots of electronics in there. You need to have it, you got to have it. But the materials, the sheet metal, the cast, the polished things, and at the end of the day, it's about, again, I have to say it, it's about the looks, the feel, and the sound. And this is kind of the essence of the bike. Everything is perfect. From the overall proportion down to the last detail. I mean, there's lots of details on there, beautifully made, like the calipers here, the levers here, the graphic of the speedo, the tank cap, really nicely done, like a little jewel here. The seating, the fixing of the seat, I mean, you name it. I can't point out everything. There's like so many nice little details and jewels on the bike. You have to look at it by yourself.
Yeah, I think everyone just needs to go into their dealers and spend at least a couple of hours looking at the details because, indeed, it is the sum of its parts. And we're going to talk about parts in a little bit, but thanks for now, Edgar, because there are some really great design insights there. And we'll come back to you and Christian shortly to talk about customization. But I want to bring in Kurt at this point because he's the guy responsible for the 1800cc motor, and he's the best person to reveal some of the technical marvels hidden inside that huge engine block. So, hi there, Kurt. It's great to see you again, mate.
Hello, Andy. It's great to see you again.
Just going back to the early days of this project, Kurt, how exciting was it to go where no BMW engineer had gone before?
It was very exciting, but first of all, I have to say it was kind of a big surprise that I've been asked to step into this project and be part of this. A great honor to be part of this special development project, and it's the biggest boxer engine in BMW history, and it's a petrol monster in times of zero emissions and electric cars. And so on, but I have to say it fulfills. It's a high-tech monster in a beautiful dress, and it fulfills all actual and the hardest requirements in pollution and emission. And so I would say it's a clean monster. Yeah.
I've heard it called a lot of things, but never a clean monster. I like that. Well, for sure, it's a bit of a beast, Kurt, and a real sculpture in metal, to paraphrase what Edgar was saying earlier. So just how much does that huge engine and gearbox weigh then, Kurt? And give some of the other specs while you're at it as well.
Maybe as you know, in my former life, I've been part of motorsport. So lightweight was one of the main targets for me. Always, so here it's a really lightweight construction. So the engine, the gearbox, and for sure the air intake system weighs only 110 kilograms. So it's lightweight. No, fun. It's so you get a lot for your money. Every part is you get what you see basically. There you have got the front engine cover. For example, which is made out of aluminium. Then we've got the star nut, which is casted. Then we've got the cylinder head covers, which is aluminium. Then we've got the air intake covers, which is aluminium. So it's really, you get what you see. At the end, you also have to say it's a 1802 cubic centimeters capacity. Then we've got a 100 7.1 bore. We've got a 100 millimeter stroke. The engine pulls 91 horses, and we've got 158 Newton meters of torque.
Wow. More on that talk later, but we'll come back to that. But on the road, I can imagine, that the new R18 is going to certainly be an imposing silhouette when you see one fast approaching in your mirrors, filling up your mirrors indeed. So do you think riders who are fans of the iconic BMW bikes from the past can truly appreciate the engineering, the thought, and the dedication that's gone into this latest big boxer, Kurt?
Yes, I think so. It's a big cruiser. It's a very big cruiser, but it's still a real BMW bike. So it's great fun to ride. I personally really, for my opinion, I would say it's a good-looking bike, but maybe I'm not that really objective. But for me, it's the fantastic thing when you sit on the bike and you look down on these two little cylinders. And that's an amazing view, and still for me it's a moment of goosebumps when I start the engine, even if I did it many times now. But when it comes to life and it shakes and it rattles and the torque turns the bike from one side to the other, it's for me amazing, and I really think that's what the people or the customers will appreciate and will have some fun with the bike.
Yeah, goosebumps. I can see what it means to you, Kurt. Absolutely, 100%. Because, as we know, it's the biggest boxer engine ever and the most torque. You mentioned that earlier. I believe there's over 150 Newton meters available at all times. So put that in perspective for us, Kurt. Can you explain what that feels like to ride that fat curve? Tell us about the torque, what's important, where you need it, because obviously you said you came from a motorsport background, but this is different. This is definitely not about horsepower and high revs for a relaxed ride, is it?
Yeah, no. For me, it's as you mentioned it. It's the wide and the flat torque curve. So we've got more than 150 Newton meters from 2,000 till 4,000 RPMs, and that torque makes, for me, relaxed riding possible. And we've got a very long gearbox as well to calm down the bike a little bit. Still doesn't make it boring, but just to calm it down. And so you can use, when you ride it, you can use most of the time the highest gear, so 4th, 5th, 6th gear, and just enjoy the torque when you pull the throttle. And so when I ride normally through the countryside, I use 5th gear, because with 5th gear you can go down to, let's say 1,200 RPMs, which is round about 45, 50 Ks, so for the villages. And then when you exit the villages, you just pull the throttle and enjoy, and it still accelerates nicely to 100, sometimes 120. And it's great fun. But on the other hand side, we've got the modes, the different riding modes. So if you want to have a more lively engine character, you can choose the rock mode, or when you just want to roll, you use the roll mode for the normal funny cruising. And mainly I use 5th gear, but sometimes I also want to feel our engine and want to feel as Edgar said, the performance, and to really feel what's going on. And then you can easily make a nice acceleration from 1st to 3rd, 4th, 5th gear, or you shift down in the villages when the village ends. In 3rd gear, you pull the throttle, you go through the gears, enjoy the torque, enjoy the pulling of the bike. And for me, I would say most of the people will just put a smile on your face. Yeah, I only can say I really enjoy riding the bike.
You've put a smile on my face just listening to you describe it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, like you say, it pulls like a train. It looks great. But it's also how it sounds, isn't it, Kurt? I want to know what the engineers did to get that engine to sound so good.
For sure, sound is also a subjective thing. and it's very hard to really put it into just technical parameters. But for sure, we worked a lot on the sound and to get a typical boxer sound, that when you open the throttle, you hear the air intake system. When you then also you have got the exhaust that you hear, but also some typical boxer engine, typical technical noises, like push rods with the fork rocker arms without hydraulic elements. So there's no hydraulic element to make the valve clearance adjustment. So what I really think personally, I think that some old mechanics will come back, will be reactivated from retirement to show the young guys, which are not used anymore, to make the adjustment of the valve clearance.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Listen, finally, Kurt, I just want to ask you to say a few words about the workmanship, you know, the attention to detail and the materials used in the heart of the new R18, because from what I can tell, there's been no expense spared in choosing the best quality materials to offer the strength, the reliability, the longevity that the owners ultimately will expect from such a premium product, won't they?
Yes, there I really have to say, first of all, thanks to the designers and the whole design team, that they were pushing us so hard to keep the design and don't allow us too many technical changes. For sure, would have made our life much, much more easier. But at the end, when you look at the bike, and okay, for me especially the drivetrain, engine and drivetrain, it was really worse to go the hard way. So for me, the result, it's just a beautiful bike. What finally came out there, and materials what we used, as I mentioned before, the covers and everything. Then we've got our crankcase, the oil pan, the bell housing, the gearbox housing. Then for sure, for the rear axle, the housing is all aluminium cast, as well as the crankcase covers, which are also made out of aluminium cast. And for me, they are a very, very important part to make this view, this look, this bullet look of the whole engine. And as Edgar also mentioned before, for me a big surprise now when you look at it is how clean it is. That you don't see bolts, you don't see really the mechanical parts. But I know that everything is there. So, and but I think, then we've got the cylinders. The cylinders are Nika Seal coated, so that means a very hard coating to make it very long life. Then something special for sure. What we've got here is due to the big bore. We've got a big distance of the cylinders. So what we had to bring in was a third crankshaft bearing. But at the end, I would say that's one of the reasons why we made this ground engine almost kind of bulletproof. And one single spec, what I also want to mention is, was hard work, but also for me something what I'm really proud of it is the clutch. So we've got the first time is a single, a self-reinforcing single blade dry clutch with a back torque limiting function. So that means with a slipper clutch function, which is for such a big engine very positive. When you shift down the gears and everything, this slipper clutch function makes it much, much more easier to handle the bike and ride the bike. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Listen, cheers, Kurt. It is clear to see your passion, mate. And thanks for sharing it with us. Before we go back to Christian and Edgar to tell us more about the wonderful world of customization R18 style, let's have a look at a short clip before we have a chat about what the many possibilities are with various parts and accessories. Welcome back, Christian. Welcome back, Edgar. Kurt was brilliant, wasn't he? I'd love to see that passion. And I think I see that among so many people that I talk to when I travel over to Munich. Now, Christian, as we've heard from Kurt, the bike itself is a technical marvel. We can see that. But I want to touch on the fact that it's been designed from the ground up for easy customization. Also, the fact that BMW Motorrad's teamed up with some renowned and respected partners in the scene to offer a big range of parts and accessories to make an R18 your R18. More on that shortly, but customization, why is it massively important in this sector?
Well, customization is, I guess, something that drives us all. No one wants to have the same bike like your neighbor, like your buddy. So everyone is an individual. And of course, you want to reflect your personality in your motorcycle. And cruisers are the prototype of expressing your personality, make it your own. And of course, we did a lot of work, and that's why Kurt deserved the smiles and the proudness, because he did all the hard job when we had the requests for easy customization, exchangeable parts. And with our help from the design team, of course, we wanted that to be as flexible as possible. And that's easy to say and very hard to do. So we really had that as one of the key project targets, and we learned from the R90, which was already very, very easy to customize, and we put all that engineering thought into the R18 as well. So we can promise that it's not only mechanically, but also electrically easy to make it your own style.
Fantastic, yeah. And you've got some seriously cool accessories partners on board with this project, haven't you, Christian?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening with Roland Sands design, V&H, and Mustang seats also?
Yes, we have worked very successfully with Roland, and he's not only a very fast rider, but also a genius when it comes to design and technology. So we like his parts, his style, and we asked him to cooperate with us with some really nice design parts. So we'll offer quite some range of Roland Sands design parts to individualize your bike. We asked the team from Vans & Heinz for some special mufflers, and we know that mufflers are something that everyone has his personal taste. Some like this style, some like the other style, and we have to fulfill a lot of homologation requirements from various markets. So definitely we needed a good partner to offer the different styles and types of exhausts. And last but not least, seats are something very special. You need different colors, you need different heights, you need a one-seat, and sometimes you take a pillion, so you want a two-seater as well, or exchange the seat according to the needs. So definitely seats to work with Mustang was an easy one, and the guys were happy to work with us, and we found some really nice solutions, we promise.
It's definitely a smart move there for sure. Over to you, Edgar. For me, the R18, it's all about ease of customization and expressing yourself. So was the conversion-friendly design a prerequisite right from the beginning of this project?
That was definitely from the very beginning. As Christian already mentioned, we learned a lot from the R90. I always like to say, basically, a bike is about emotion. It's not so much about purpose. It's about emotion. And a bike is actually the biggest accessory you can wear. And you want to express your style, your lifestyle, and your feelings somehow with your emotions with this bike. So this is why it's so important to get the customization, to give a big variety, give big options for the customer to do whatever he wants to express. Yeah, and like you said, from the beginning, it was very, very important. We already did, in a modern bike, I have to say, on a modern bike, customization is not so easy anymore. Because whenever you put some electric component, you have a big problem with your computers, with your CAN bus system. So it's not so easy like it used to be from the bikes from the 70s or 80s. So this is a big issue. The bike here is designed that you can do this. I'm not talking about the hardware itself. The hardware, of course, is easy. You can interchange handlebars or lamps. Oh, lamp is electric again. But you can change handlebars, you can change seats, exhaust pipe, wheels, little bits and pieces, whatever. There is so much variety. And to us, it's very important to offer this big variety. And even if there is parts from outside, from the aftermarket, for example, like Roland Sands or other guys, this is very good for us because it raises the, how do you say, I miss the English word, sorry, the Begehrlichkeit. We missed the word, Andy. Sorry.
Don't worry. It raises the bar, raises the level, raises the amount of choice.
The more parts are there, it's more important. It's more interesting getting for the customers. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and as you said, there's loads of options with various partners with BMW Motorrad for customizing these R18s, and of course there are even more on the way. While I'm pondering on that, I'm going to go back to Christian again, because with so many parts already available and so many of these choices to make, it's going to be fun to configure what your own R18 might be like, Christian. Now, I've heard there's an online tool that will enable you to do that from the comfort of your own home. So can you tell us a little bit more about this, please?
Absolutely, Andy. Yes, our configurator is, of course, not completely new. We have offered that for our bikes up till today, so you could configure your bike with different color options and ex-factory options to see what it looks like, and also to see the price going up or down. But now we have also integrated our accessory line to this configurator, so you can imagine what the bike looks like with the accessories that Edgar has just mentioned with the ape-hanger version of the R18, for example. So you could really configure your bike to make it your own. And of course, then go to your dealer and ask the bike to be in that version or this version, print it out and say, I want this or that, and get the dealer to order the bike ex-factory with the stuff that we offer, and also the accessory line where the dealer, of course, has to mount some of the components.
Sounds fantastic. Listen, guys, before I let you go, I've got to ask you how you both spec out your own R18s, because I'm sure people watching are wanting to know which direction you both go in. So why don't you go first, Christian?
Well, I was in love with the R18 concept, like many of our customers, and we have received a lot of questions. When can I buy this bike? I want it exactly like this. So to start with the bad news, you cannot buy it like this because it's not street legal. There are a lot of things, or quite some things on there, where in most of the countries you get absolutely no homologation. But the good news is you can get very close. And so my target would be to build an R18 that looks very much alike like the concept. But to be very honest, the more I look at the ape hanger, the more I fall in love with a blacked out version with an ape hanger. So I'm not 100% decided. My mind is still full of ideas.
Christian, you're a closer.
Yes, I am. Oh. You know that.
Yeah. What about you, Edgar?
Okay, I'm just thinking about. Actually, I like everything which has knobby tires. But still, there is no 16-inch knobby tire as of now. I probably have to wait for this one. And as long as there is nothing like that, I would go for something a little bit performing. I'm a big fan of the R18-2 concept, which we showed on EICMA last time. That's actually right now my favorite R18. I really love it. It's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real tough choice, isn't it? I think whatever choice people make, they're always going to kind of go back and say, maybe I should have done it another way. Maybe I've got to own two R18s. So I guess that configurator tool's really going to help people make that R18 their 18. So, and of course, they should talk to their local dealers as well for additional inspiration. So before I let you go, can we see if there are any questions that have come in from our community? And if there are, let's bring them up on screen and see what's going on there. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, guys. I'm going to read it out anyway, because you're probably a long way from any monitors. So question for Edgar. How would you say does the analog R18 fit to the trend of more and more e-motorbikes coming to the market?
Definitely a good question also. I think there is definitely space for both worlds. But right now, these worlds don't mingle, to be honest. This is something where we talk really about analog, about soul, about emotion bike. I don't say electromobility is not emotionally, not at all. Electromobility is quite emotionally once you've ridden one of these things. But we are really working on that field, electromobility. But in our perception, electromobility is first of all very, very useful in urban areas. Like scooters, for example, like short distance transporting, because urban areas is lots to do with acceleration, deceleration, recuperation. short distances. So we believe very much that this is a very valid concept, but as of now in urban areas, once this thing develops, I see very much potential also in different fields of electromobility. Check out the concept DC Roadster, what we did I think 2 years ago. This is also a very, very valid concept, how this electromobility could turn into performance. Very interesting, but this concept, I think, or this kind of market segment, I do not see electromobility right now. Maybe you have a different point of view.
I fully agree, Edgar. And just wanted to add that our DC Roadster is definitely emotional. So that's what tells us that electromobility can be emotional.
I really want to point out this because many people say, many riders nowadays, they say, electric bike, that's boring, I don't want it. I only can encourage you, take a test ride. These things are really interesting. I mean, electromobility is definitely emotional.
100%, yeah, agree with you. Thanks, Edgar. Thanks, Christian, as well. So let's bring another question up on screen then. Why exactly 1800cc? Why not 1700 or 1900? I'm sure there's a technical reason for that.
I think that's hard to answer, but in the end, we wanted to be competitive. We needed definitely a 3-digit cubic inch number. We wanted to have enough torque. Kurt pointed out all the details, and we have tried out certain layouts, and we were convinced that with 110, we were competitive. We could offer an engine concept that brings this thing up to speed, is emotional, and offers enough torque. And that's why we went for exactly 1802 cc or 110 cubic inches.
Yeah, I mean, R17 sounds a little bit strange, and R19 would be confused with the R9T, wouldn't it? So I think you're right on the money there. So we'll leave it there for now because, it's been brilliant so far. And thanks for all of your input today so far, guys. It's been a fascinating behind-the-scenes insight into the thought process and, of course, the long development of this bike. So huge thanks for all of us in the BMW Motorrad community. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, I've kept them talking for long enough, but I think it's early enough in California or late enough and a good time in the podcast to bring in Roland Sands to tell us more about the story behind his latest R18 Dragster project. Good morning, Roland. Thanks for joining us so early from the West Coast.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be on.
Great work on the build, by the way. I loved watching Tommy's reaction when he rode it in that latest episode of Bavarian Soul Story. I think he was literally blown away by it, wasn't he?
Yeah, the bike itself is pretty, it's shattering when you fire it up. It really wakes people up. I mean, the fact that it's such a big motor and it has such a rumble to it, it has such a unique sound too, which I really like. It doesn't sound anything like a V-twin, so the R18, you're going to definitely hear that bike come, and it's going to have its own song for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone's not seen it yet, I highly recommend searching that one up and watching the full episode, Bavarian Soul Story. I think it's episode 10, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, tell us about this build, Roland. It seems as if you went way back into your own childhood and racing past for inspiration for your R18 Dragster, which looks great next to you there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, for me, I mean, racing's been just a part of who I am and my family for a very long time. So my dad was a drag racer when he was younger, and it's one of my first memories was going to the drag strip and just being around like really heavy bikes, top fuel Harleys and all kinds of really crazy stuff. Pro stock racing, top fuel racing, and just everything I can remember was just being in the pits and being around all this stuff. So I just brought this kind of heritage, wanted to bring the BMW heritage together with my history and past to build something that I think was authentic for me and like personally attached to what I really enjoy. And to me, this bike, when I first saw it, it just spoke hot rod. The engine is so dramatic, the way it sits within the bike, and it really pops. Like when you're sitting on top of the bike, you just look down, and it kind of reminded me when you're looking at a hot rod, and the pipes are sticking out from the side, and it's just all muscle and madness, and this bike I think is a good example of that for me. I mean, it's all motor. It's more motor than any other bike I think we've worked on. The motor's such a big focus. So
yeah, I mean, it's certainly got a lot of attitude, and what a great way to grow up as well in that environment and those smells and those sounds. Because from what I heard from the Bavarian Soul Story episode, the bike sounds great too in its dragster form. So what tweaks have you done to the engine, and tell us what a difference the nitrous has made?
the motor itself is fairly stock. We didn't touch the internals at all because I think we're still trying to figure out exactly what we can do with it performance-wise. The basics for really the performance modifications were reducing the weight dramatically. I think we took almost 150 pounds off the bike, and we simplified as much as we could. You can see the rear of the bike is a rigid, and that is driven from drag racing. Because we wanted to simplify the whole back of the bike, we changed the geometry a little bit too. We wanted to drop the thing down and lower it quite a bit, and that's why we used the R9T forks to drop the bike down, and it just sets the whole bike down low, gets it in a nice drag racing stance. But the engine itself is predominantly intake and exhaust and tuning, so ECU tuning. We kind of unplugged it as it may be. There's a little bit of controls on the motor that make it maybe a little bit more user-friendly, so we're basically opening up the entire 1800 cc's to the world with this thing. So at first, and I'm not normally like too affected by motorcycles. I've been around some loud stuff and some radical stuff, but the first time I fired this bike up, it was a little intimidating. The shake and the rumble and the attitude of the bike, and you revved it, and it, you know, with all the electronics just open up, the thing has quite a bit of torque and moves quite a bit. But the cool thing is once you get going, I mean, it's just straight up, like you can feel that 150 foot-pounds of torque, and I don't know, this thing probably has quite a bit more horsepower than the stock bike. I think it's making 20 more horsepower without nitrous, and I'm sure the torque numbers are up a little bit, but it has quite an effect on you when you ride it.
Yeah, for sure. What's going to happen then, in your opinion, when you hook the nitrous up to it?
The nitrous is hooked up, and unfortunately we didn't get to run it on nitrous because we literally finished the bike the night before we did the shoot. The nitrous was all there, but we didn't have it dialed and tuned, and we didn't want to destroy the motor, which can happen with nitrous. So it's all plumbed and everything is hooked up. So then the next time we run it will be on nitrous, and I think we're going to get another 50 horsepower out of it, you know, at full throttle. So it's tuned so that when you're running the bike at full throttle, that's when the nitrous opens up, and it also shoots an extra amount of fuel into the bike, so it richens the bike up and shoots the nitrous in. So I don't know, an extra 50 horsepower is going to be really fun.
I think you're going to have to make another film about that, because there'll be a lot of people wanting to watch that for sure. But of course, you know, the R18 is going to bring a lot of new riders to the brand, and there are going to be a lot of them who are going to be thinking about taking their first steps in customization with this R18. So how good a starting point would you say the base model is for this, Roland?
Yeah, I think the R18 is a real nice platform to customize. You know, Eddie and the guys have done, I think, an excellent job of taking into account what makes customizing a bike easier. There's a lot of bikes that are, in my opinion, very over-designed. So if you change one thing, you have to change all these other things. Where the R18, I think, is designed very, segment is not the right word, but it's designed with customization in mind. Meaning you can change out the headlight, you know, and you can change out the headlight bezel. You can change out the instrument cluster, the valve covers, the breastplate, the wheels. You know, and you can do all these things without really modifying the other things. Obviously, you want to customize your bike and make it cohesive, but you're able to pick and choose the parts that you want to do, and it's not like you have to change the whole back end of the bike. You know, you can unbolt the subframe, which is on, I think, a cruiser is really cool. It's not something that you usually see on more of a standard cruiser. So the back of the bike, like, from a customizer's perspective, is wide open. You can do whatever you want. You know, you basically got a tire and a wheel back there, and then you can build whatever you want around it. So I think that this version, we really worked to retain the stock sheet metal. So you can see it's got stock gas tank, stock fender, stock headlight, stock rear fender, but a modified one. But if you wanted to go really crazy and design completely new sheet metal like Bernhard did, which I really like, the fairing that he did on his bike. I think it's a great base model for customization.
Yeah, it's great to hear a customizer say that with, over 200 builds under his belt. So it's going to be landing in showrooms soon. So do you feel like it's going to bring many new riders into BMW Motorrad dealers for the first time?
I think that BMW has a product that they've never had in the past, and so certainly they're going to get some new customers. The V-twin industry here in the States is a difficult one to break into, and you can see the Japanese manufacturers have tried to get into it in authentic ways, and I think it's really tough. And what is unique about BMW is the history and heritage that they have building bikes in this genre in the past. So to me, that makes it an authentic play for them. It's not some like Hail Mary, although a lot of people may view it that way initially. When they think BMW, they don't think Cruiser, they think GS, they think S1000R. But of course, they didn't think 9T either. They didn't think that the 9T was going to be what it was, and I think the 9T really kicked off the heritage style motorcycle concept, not just for BMW, but for kind of the industry. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the R18 plays in the large CC cruiser segment. I think it's I think it's they're going to slide this one in.
yeah, we're all watching closely for sure. Thank you very, very much for talking to us so far. Please stick around because we're going to head across to Austria now and introduce Bernhard and the bike that you spoke about. It's the Blechmann R18, and of course it offers yet another unique interpretation of what can happen when you let your creativity run wild with a donor big boxer cruiser. So if you're there in Austria, welcome Bernhard.
Welcome at my workshop here in Austria. Hey guys, for me it's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here on the podcast, Bernhard. Listen, congratulations on another unique interpretation for the new R18. I'm not sure if you know Roland already, and I'm not sure if Roland's still with us, but I wanted to ask him what he thinks of your bike. If you're there still, Roland, and if you can hear us, can you tell us what you think of the bike? Because I believe you like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I dig Bernhard's bike, and I don't know if you caught it earlier, but one of my original sketches had a fairing on it and was like based on the stock bike. So when I saw Bernhard's bike, I was like, oh, that thing's sick. And I think he did a really nice job of maintaining the stock bike and making it extra special. And that's not an easy thing to do. I'm still trying to figure out the gas tank fairing, the narrowed gas tank and the piece that's on top of it. And that crazy headlight and how you did all that. So I got some YouTubing to do. I want to know more about this bike.
It's great to hear, and I appreciate. And I'm a fan of your work, and ever since the days of your glorious Stomper, you remember 15 years ago. Yeah, that's quite a long time. But your work is inspiring, and to me, and it's a pleasure for me to meet you. And I like your bike too.
Thanks, dude.
I like the mean and aggressive line, and but the most interesting part for me, when we compare our both bikes, is I just moved these parts of the bike, and that was you live on. So we gone a very different direction and a very different approach of our build. You got me?
Yeah.
So
we changed the whole structure.
You leave the stock body parts, the stock metal parts, sheet metal parts, and I just swapped those things, and otherwise, that's crazy. But I like that, and it's still a R18. And it shows up the range you can customize this bike. That's the meaning. That's the sense of the Soul Fuel program, I think. And so we nailed that.
I'm feeling left out here, guys. I feel like I wish I had a bike to show. It's been, I forgot I was meant to be hosting a podcast then, because I was just laid back listening to you guys. The story continues. I think the story continues with every new bike that breaks cover. And certainly from your side, Bernhard, it's been a fantastic interpretation. So, and the feedback on the forums as well, it's been amazing, hasn't it? Have you enjoyed reading all of those comments, Bernhard?
Oh, thanks a lot. There were plenty of great comments. I never expected so much attention for my work. It feels like my work is worth to do it.
Yeah, it certainly was worth it, that's for sure. And interesting to hear you talking to Roland there about the completely different approaches. And because unlike a lot of customizers, you don't use sketches and renders. So can you just tell us a little bit about your process and how you ended up with this futuristic, fully fared cruiser interpretation, Bernhard?
You have to know I draw my lines, my design directly on the object using the final materials, the sheet metal. It allows me to directly respond to the requirements and to keep an eye on the proportion at all time and any angle. And I call that rapid prototyping Blechmann style.
Yeah, for sure. It's got a bagger look about it, but without the bags somehow. So tell us how you arrived at that distinctive front end, with the details in the fairing, the headlight, the cut down bars even, and the narrower tank that Roland mentioned, of course.
Where should I start? I like sporty, narrow and streamlined looking bikes a lot. And so that was my intention from begin on. But I had no clearly picture in mind of the bike in advance. I just followed my instincts, but I'm satisfied how it comes out.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear you talking about that bike of Roland's from, 15 years ago. Was it the Stomper you called it? Because you don't look that old to me, but I like the way you approached the tail section on this bike. It seemed really, really neat. So how did you decide on that seat and the hump and, of course, the LED rear light as well?
The rear part was my starting point for my build. I wanted as sporty and compact as it gets. And single seat, of course, it defines the proportions of the next step, the tank and at least the fairing and the seat rear as well. The details are business as usual for me.
Yeah. And what I found particularly interesting was that there's a lot of the original RI-18 that you've left as standard. Was it intentional to show what can be done by leaving the original chassis untouched, but as you've done, really going to town with the bodywork?
Yes. For me, my Blechmann R18 is a kind of a purpose build. It should show up the options and the possibilities R18 provide, without touching the original and homologated chassis. So the customer can comprehend what the bike looks like only with different body parts. To be more valuable for the brand BMW in the end. And that was my approach from the beginning on.
Totally understand that one. But what people are always interested to know is how long did the build take? And what is your particularly favorite view of it? What perspective do you like best when you're walking around the bike and looking at it?
The build, it takes me around 450 man hours to finish, including a few helping hands for tasks like casting parts, leathering, and so on. When it comes to the perspective, I like it the best from behind. It's exciting to me to watch the proportions from the tailpipes, see the rear, the engine, over the tank to the fairing. It comes out very well, the perfect point to watch it.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it in the metal burner because it looks fantastic in the pictures, but I just really want to walk around it and maybe even sort of sit on it and touch it if it's allowed. But listen, cheers, Bernhard. We really appreciate your time today. I'm just going to check before we bring the podcast to a close if there are any questions that still need answering, because I know I've asked about 100 of them so far. So listen, the guys in the background, Nicholas, if there are any questions that have come in, oh, here we go. Now, this one's from Tommy Kearns. Oh, he is watching after all. And it's for Edgar. He wants to hear Edgar's feedback on these bikes. I don't know, Bernhard, if Edgar's still connected. I don't know if he's watching in the studio. Is he still in the studio watching the podcast? Nicholas, have you still got, I know you got the feed open to Roland. Have you still got the feed open to Munich? Maybe he's still there. Let me just, you are watching, sir. Oh, brilliant. All right, listen, Edgar, have you still got your mic on?
I just heard about Tommy. Is it Tommy? I mean,
it's the Tommy Kearns, yeah. And he was basically, he's wanting some reaction on those two bikes. So probably just wanting to put you on the spot a little bit, So over to you. Talk away. What do you think of both of these bikes that we've just been speaking about?
I mean, come on. This Tommy, my friend Butterscotch Tommy, he wants to, to fleece me. I don't know. Tommy, you're probably online. I don't know. That's a bit of an unfair question. On the one hand, but I mean, first of all, I love both bikes. They are both marvelous. I have seen Bernhard's bike. I have not seen Roland's bike in flesh and blood, but I hope I will see soon. I mean, both bikes, to be serious now, both bikes are superb bikes. I really love both of them. For us, it's super interesting to see these super creative minds working out their interpretation of the bike. First of all, what I love perfectly, both bikes are 18s, due to the fact that the engine is just so massive that whatever build you do, you always see it's a BMW boxer bike. And this is, first of all, this is a statement. And this is something I really love. Secondly, I think, like I said, both these super creative minds, they have their own style, and this is what I really love also. Everything Roland does, since I know Roland, I know him for some time, everything he does is always performance related. And you can just expect this, but every time it's adding something on top. It's super nice. And this is also good, let's say, from our point of view, because in America, this is exactly Roland's approach. It's about acceleration, quarter mile. This is how Americans love performance. It's this kind of performance. On the other hand, what Bernhard does, it's extremely thrilling also to me, because this is more like a very artistic approach, what I feel. Bernhard, we talked a lot about this, his build, and he literally starts with a sheet metal. He doesn't have a drawing, he doesn't have anything, he just starts with a sheet metal and he starts hammering that whole thing. And somehow it comes to life. This is artistic. This is he's an artist, you can really say. And at the end of the day, it's a sculpture in metal. So both bikes are super nice, super lovely. I'm a big fan of both bikes. Again, it's a little bit unfair. We do this concept bike once in a while, and that gives a little glimpse into this world. You can forget about homologation. You can forget about whatever fenders or headlights or blinkers. This stuff you don't want to have on your bikes, but you gotta have. And a little bit we have this when we do the concept bikes. So I have a little feeling of what these guys are doing, but super nice works, super cotard to both of them. I really love all their works. Tommy, thanks for the question.
Yeah, cheers, Tommy. That was a good one, and cheers, Edgar, for sticking on the line and being around to answer that. Really appreciate it. Right, I really do think we've got to bring things to a close now, and thanks to everyone involved. Bernhard, if you're still watching, Christian, if you're still watching, and Roland, wherever you are, all of our guests, in fact. I've had a fantastic time and learnt loads too. And we know there's loads of excitement about the R18, that loads of deposits have already been taken, and the wait is nearly over for those lucky first customers. So until next time, then, it's farewell from me and all the other guys who've participated, and we'll hopefully see you out on the road soon. So take care out there, and bye for now.